but it just doesn't seem to like what Instagram is playing up against. So I just restart my phone. Go restart her phone. There you go.
The magic happened.
They tried their best, right, to for us
Absolutely.
not to connect, but they just couldn't do it. How are you anyway? You
I'm
okay?
doing well. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Okay, I was just about to say to you, why don't you come on from the other account, the Premier Consulting? But then I thought there's mostly so many members on there that you have to get permission from.
Oh my goodness. And I often forget to bounce between accounts because that definitely would have been another option.
Yeah.
But you were so patient and diligent. Thank you so much
Nah,
for
because
making sure I got on.
it's happened so many times now, so you see. Okay, I need you to do me a favor. You see your aeroplane button at the bottom? So look at the bottom of your phone.
Yes.
You got the camera, you got the plus sign, the question mark, and you got the aeroplane button that's gone like that way.
Uh-huh.
Okay, if you press that,
Uh-huh.
that's got all your contacts in it. So if you tick, 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 tick,
I
tick, tick, tick,
got
tick, all
you.
the way down,
Got you.
and you can invite all your friends. So
Okay.
they'll get
Got
they
you.
get notifications to say Gail is live.
Awesome. I'm
So
doing right now.
I'm gonna do it as well.
Here we go. I'm clicking. Click,
Yep,
click,
it's got
clicking.
all right now. There must be millions on there. Hey, anyway, how's your Sunday been? All right,
Okay, successfully sent. Let me do it just a few more.
go on then. How's your Sunday been? Okay,
Yes, it's been quiet. It's been very restful and productive. So,
good.
I'm
So
enjoying it.
that's what it's all about. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, coach. So, Gail, tell me about your upbringing.
So, briefly, I am originally born and raised in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Yep.
I have one brother. Both my parents, we were raised in the Chilltown JC, as they call it,
Oh,
and
okay.
pretty much was just kind of ran amok. Stayed was my brother's shadow, pretty much, and so my mother did a lot to kind of get me to be more girly girl. you know,
Okay. We like a proper tomboy.
yeah. For very briefly, I just wanted to be where he was, and everything he did seemed so exciting with him and his friends, other than me just sitting on the
Yeah.
porch playing jazz, playing with my dolls. And he was out like having adventures and experiencing life as far as I knew. So I was trying to go do that, but they started just almost restricting that I couldn't even leave the porch. I had to always sit on the stoop on the porch and watch life happen. I felt like everybody was living except for me.
You know, I know that feeling as well. So when I was growing up, my cousins were all. I've got one older sister, but my cousins and everything were always out and about, howling and prowling, and I wanted to be like them. And I just
Yeah.
had to sit there sometimes. I would sit in my bedroom because I was too young. They're older than me. But
Okay. And then you wait
when I
to
was
hear
old
the
enough,
stories.
boy, but when I hit 17, 18, I just made up for it. I just went fuck wild.
You took off.
Yeah, that's it. So what happened after that? So you're sitting on this porch. Your brother's obviously gone out. All his friends are coming to pick him up in their cars and everything. I can see it now.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? He's only a year older than me, so it was just that he was out and about, just all over the place,
Yeah.
and it was like he had a freedom that I didn't have. So I would every now and then, see him and his friends going this way down the street, then they're running that way, and I'm like, what are they doing? What's happening? But I always seem to know when to be his shadow, because if he got in a scuffle, he got in a fight, I was going to fight with my
Yeah.
brother. I was going to be there. So we went in Jersey City most of our lives, and it got to the point where this is the late 70s, and there were gangs. I was growing up, started liking boys, and I tell this story all the time. When you have a childhood crush, and usually that crush doesn't even know you exist.
Yeah.
But for me, my childhood crush, unfortunately, he was in a gang, and I was just head over heels. I was so crazy about him, but he liked me back. So that was a big problem for my mother. She was like, "Oh no." So he would send his sister over to ask me to, like, could I come spend the night at their house? And I asked my mother, I was like, Mom, she asked, could I come spend the night? Can I go spend the night at their house? And my mom was like, oh, hell no.
How old were you then?
I think I was like 13.
Oh
So
no.
she was like, oh, no, ma'am. So it was the next summer we were shoved off and moving to Florida. So my mother had it. My brother had run-ins with other gangs. My mother had been mugged a couple of times. My brother had got into what could have been, a fatal fight, but thank God it wasn't, where one of the other guys from the other gangs cut his coat off of him. He had a real nice bomber coat that he got for Christmas.
Wow. Yeah.
It was I'll never forget it. It was a lumberjack bomber coat that he had, and they wanted the coat, and my brother was not giving up his coat. So they were fighting and scuffling, and they cut the coat off of him. Broad daylight, that was nothing new in Jersey City. And I
Yeah.
kind of think that just sent my mother, oh, it wasn't the fact that she had been mugged like 2 or 3 times. It was the fact that this fight that my brother got in, it could have been, really fatal. It could have been very dangerous. And that just sent her over the top. And she was like, I got to get these kids out of here. And that she did. She shipped us off to Florida the next summer. We came to Florida, which wasn't out of the ordinary because my father's family was here.
I
So
was
we
just gonna
came to
say,
Florida
did you
every
know?
summer.
I was just gonna say, did you know somebody there?
Yeah, my grandmother, my father's family was here. My grandmother was here. I had cousins here. We came every summer, so it wasn't
Oh,
out
so
of the
you knew
ordinary.
you knew the surroundings and everything.
Right, right. And this was like on schedule. It was the summertime, and we were going for 2 weeks like we normally would, but she didn't tell us that we weren't coming back.
Oh, okay.
That's how I ended up in Florida.
And then you did that? So you must have been about 14, 15 now.
Yeah, I was 14 when that happened, going into I was ready to go into high school. I had plans about what my high school years would look like in Jersey City. I knew the high school I was going to. I knew the activities I wanted to be involved in. My friends and I, we had all these plans. We were going to be majorettes. We were going to be in the parade.
I was
We were
gonna
going
say, so you didn't even have a chance to say bye to your friends, did you?
No, we left right after, in Jersey, you graduate from the 8th grade. And I had on my graduation dress. I was on Eastern Airlines. That airline doesn't even exist anymore. I was on Eastern Airlines with my beautiful white graduation dress on. We went to graduation. We went home and took pictures with our family, and we were off to Newark Airport, getting on the plane, going to Florida.
Wow.
We didn't say goodbye. We was like, bye, see y'all later. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. And that was it.
Okay. Excellent. So your personal experiences. How have they shaped your coaching life? What
Well,
you do now?
that what made me become a coach, my personal life experiences. I went through a phase, going through just life from a child into adulthood, and then losing my mother to breast cancer, trying to deal with that grief, which took me into depression and anxiety. And I fought that. I didn't know I was fighting it, but I was going through that. And it took about 2 years for me to hit a brick wall and really be in crisis with my health failing. Just completely was out of control. My marriage failed. And when I was going through depression and anxiety, I ended up in the hospital. I had a heart attack. I was trying to recover, it was like trauma after trauma.
So
And
how old are you now? So your mother's passed away. How old are you? How old were you then?
when my mother passed away, I was 49.
Okay.
849. I think I had just turned. My mother died 2 days after my 48th birthday.
Oh
She was here
no.
on hospice here at my home, and I had surgery the day after my birthday. And I didn't want to have the surgery. I was trying to put it off, and they kept saying, Gail, you cannot put this off any longer. The day after I came home from the surgery, my mother passed away. And that happened to be on my brother's birthday.
Damn. So
Yeah,
so basically, all your background, everything that's happened to you, is what's made you into what you are today, coaching people.
absolutely, absolutely,
And then
Absolutely.
when what was your first step into coaching?
Um, After I finished, when I went through depression and anxiety, and somebody got me some help. I went through a 14-week group therapy program, and I knew that after I finished that program, because it was the best thing that I never wanted to do. I hated it when
Yeah,
I first got in, and I tried so hard to get kicked out. Um, and they, these are classic things that people do. They recognize that. I thought I
yeah.
was being very creative on how to get kicked out of this program, but they
Being super
recognize.
naughty.
Yeah, yeah. So they recognize all of these, efforts. And they basically, my counselor said, if you don't show up to counseling, I'm coming to your house with the sheriff to do a well check. So either you're going to come to counsel, show up for your counseling, and it was all virtual at the time, or I'm coming to your house with the sheriff. So I didn't want the sheriff at my house
Yeah,
because
yeah,
people had already known the things that I had gone through. My neighbors already saw that, my mother had passed away. My husband packed up and left. And I was like, the last thing I need is the sheriff at my door.
yeah.
So all of that, when I successfully completed that program, and I was so thankful, for that group of people and for that support, I wanted to figure out how to reach women who had gotten to the place that I had been in, and I knew how committed I was to not being successful. I was committed to not. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to live. All I wanted to do was to go. I wanted to be with my mother again. And as dedicated as I mean, I was dedicated to it, Biggie. Until I was at that door when I had that heart attack. I was like, hold up, wait, okay, wait a minute. Well, maybe I want to live a little bit. Just
Maybe a few more years.
yeah, and that I vowed that I knew I had to find a way to be able to communicate with women, to get them to see the light, to get them to work through those unspoken, battles that they're fighting, because I didn't know I was in a battle. I didn't know I was depressed. I had to be in crisis. I cut all my hair off. I was very, still trying to work, even though my cardiologist said that I wasn't fit to go back to work, but I wanted to get back into the normal, to what I used to do. And I went back to work, and I should not have. And I just basically had a breakdown at work.
And what job did you have at this time?
So I was in corporate healthcare at that time.
Okay. So you're in the right place, really. Were you like in a hospital?
No, I was in the corporate office, but the people that I worked with, were leaders in the hospital. And immediately one of the directors, she was the one that came and pulled me to the side. I'll never forget it. And she said, "Hey, can you stop by my office for a second?" And I went to her office, didn't think anything about it. And she just asked me, "How can I help you?" And when she asked
Wow.
me that, I fell to pieces. And in hindsight, I thought about how I was spiraling out of control. I was so depressed. I was grief stricken, dealing with anxiety. My health was failing. And in an office of 14 people, nobody said a word. They all watched me. And
Really?
but then I really asked myself, what would I have? Would I have said something to
Hmm.
somebody? And what would I have said? You don't know what to say to people
You
when
don't.
they already know that my mother, I'm struggling with my mother's death, and nobody knew that my marriage fell apart. Nobody knew that my husband had left me. I had kept all that to myself because I was embarrassed.
And where was your brother at the time? Was he on the scene? Or was
My
he
brother
still in
lived in a
Jersey?
different. My brother lived 2.5 hours away.
Oh,
So
okay.
all of this from my family, every bit of it I kept away from my family, and they didn't find out that all of this had happened until I wrote my memoir, Pressure, and they read the book. They didn't
I'm going to
know.
get to that in a minute about your book.
Yeah, they didn't know any of this until they read the book. Not I kept everything in it, just in my breastplate, trying to manage it all because I was embarrassed, and I didn't know how to share with people that I had a clinical psychologist, a licensed mental health counselor, and a psychologist, and I was on medication. I didn't know how to share that, with people, because in my community, black folks, they'll be like, "Oh, what you
There's,
crazy now? What
there's
you talking to these
same
people
same as
telling
my community, same as Indian community.
absolute
Yeah, hold on, what's wrong with you?
right?
Fix up.
Like, what's wrong with you? You telling them people your business? You know,
Yeah.
all so it was that shame and that taboo that, you're not you black people don't go to counseling. But indeed, and it's true.
Yeah.
It's a stigma in our community. Thankfully, that suffocated mindset is being released because so many of us need help. And now a lot more of us are embracing the thought of getting the counseling because people go to counseling and find their release.
Yeah.
They start
Right.
healing and they come back and share about their healing. And that's how I got into into being a coach, because I wanted to share the healing process and how it helped me. And I knew I wasn't going to go back to school to be a psychologist.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't going to do that.
I think what it is,
But
people don't open up enough. Especially like I mentioned in one of your posts earlier, especially men. Men
right.
don't open up enough and they keep it inside them, and then that's how depression
And
kicks in.
festers into other health issues like it did for me,
That's it.
and I'm still a cardiac patient, but thankfully, I'm doing so much better that I only have to go to the cardiologist once a year versus I was going every 2 weeks, and then I was going every month. And I prayed for the time that I could get to be an annual patient. And right before I was getting ready to get signed off, that I could just come back once a year. Then I had
Wow.
a minor episode, and they were like, "Well, let's wait 6 more months," and I was devastated. But I finally got over that hump, and for the last 3 years, I've only gone back, once a
Once a
year.
year. That is
Yes,
for routine checkup.
yep, just a routine checkup. So I'm so thankful for that.
100%. You come across like a very spiritual person as well. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. I had to lean very heavily on my faith as I went through these changes. And it wasn't easy. It's not like overnight. I went through this program and I became because my first certification was as a master life coach, and everything did not go away after that. I just had to apply what I learned
That's
as I
right.
continue to go over hurdles and face challenges. I just have more tools to use to apply to life.
That's right. Because I don't think people just see, obviously they see your Instagram, they see your social media, they think everything's rosy in the garden, but they don't know the backstory, do they?
They don't see all the weeds that's trying to
Yeah.
grow in the garden. They don't see
That's
me
right.
pulling weeds and trying to keep my fruits, and my blooms, alive. And that's what
100%.
life is about, is how do you pull the weeds, and you go and just as sure as you clean the weeds out, some more come back.
More
They
come out. Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
some more
And
come
people don't see that. People just think everything's rosy in the garden. Oh,
absolutely.
she's alright. I've seen her videos on YouTube.
That is so far from the truth. The
100%.
difference is that I still put forward a fight, a good fight. I fight things
Yeah.
every day. I just fight differently than I did in the past. I armor myself up. I anchor myself in my faith, in my belief system, because I learned that how powerful my mind is. My mind is so powerful that I talked myself into dying. I had made the decision to die, and my body was like, "Oh, you want to die? Oh, okay." And my health started failing. And
Yeah.
so that's when after I went through, I had to go through life experiences and professional training to be able to reach people, mainly women, to fight fight for their life, literally through with their mind, but understanding that we do things based on what we've experienced, what we've heard, and what we were told. That's the cognition part of it, is when seeds get planted in us and we start believing some of those seeds, and they may have not been so helpful or positive. um, I planted a lot of seeds in myself, and I started believing them. I started waiting for them to take root, and it was all negative because I was making decisions through depression and grief and anxiety. So I learned the power of my mind and the power of my thoughts when I became a certified master life coach. But I had to do more because I saw that the community I was serving and my clients needed more answers like to why. So that's when the cognitive behavior came in, and I went back last year and got a certification in cognitive behavior coaching,
What
and
does
that
cognitive behavior mean? Is that like patterns?
it's being it's being aware of the mechanics of why you're making these
Oh,
decisions.
oh, okay.
Cognitivity, like understanding the, like you said, patterns, seeing the patterns and understand why those patterns exist, and actually owning and accepting and knowing we have the power to change it.
Yeah,
We have the power to change the path that we're on. We can lay new pathways for ourselves. And I think the people think that they're not willing to do the hard work to unlearn and remake new pathways. It takes digging. You got to
sure.
lay foundation. You got to put new pavers down so that you can walk your new path. Everybody is not willing to do that, or people don't want to take the time to realize why they do certain things, because when you learn why, then you'll be responsible to change it.
100%. So you got qualified, and now you're helping people now.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so mainly like, so I didn't ask you where you from, like back home origin,
Say that again,
or you,
Big.
where's your family from originally?
My family's from New Jersey. My grandmother's background is Native Iroquois Indian in New Jersey, and of course, I have African American background from South Carolina. So, I'm just originally, my roots are in Jersey.
So you're American. So there's no like West Indies, or there's no
No,
Africa, nothing like that. Oh, okay, this American, Black American.
American, American, Black American.
Okay, so you got qualified now. So you who how are you getting your clients? Because
I
people
use
are watching speaking older. She's a Fruit Loop herself. Why she help? How can she help us?
And the thing about that, Biggie, is I'm happy to share with people that I am not
Yeah,
perfect. I have
hundred
been
percent.
where you are, just to have that relational understanding, with my clients. I mainly get my clients through speaking engagements. I have a group called the Blazers Academy, where Blazers is for professional women or women who are aspiring to be business owners. We come together in support and resources and help them bring their biggest dreams and turn them into thriving businesses, and teach them
Wow,
how to break free and live in the dreams that they have for themselves. So when I have these events, and then also like through Spicy Season Sisters, that I'm 1/4 of the
the
Spicy Season Sisters.
podcast. Yeah,
And so we have a huge following. So women, all of us are coaches in our own, areas and arenas. So when I do speaking engagements, I meet a lot of women. When I hold my Blazers events, they're open to the public. People join our Blazers group, and when they see the support and the access they have to the other business owners and leaders in
brilliant.
the community, they join forces and we lock arms together. And I always tell them, our beginning is anywhere we start. Once we stand shoulder to shoulder together, we can take the world over. It's a matter of making sure that you come get in the room.
100%. I agree with you. So you done this. So did you do a lot of public speaking? So like at forums or like big presentations and meetings?
Yes, I have done public speaking. My last speaking engagement, I was at the Art Network. I was the keynote speaker at their Black Tie Gala, and I met a lot of people at that gala, and so much business kicked off from me being a keynote speaker at that event.
Wow.
Is that I've been now doing webinars, been hosting, taking on new clients, and actually. One of the clients that I took on after I did that event was just D. I had always known D from the corporate space.
He's
And
brilliant, isn't he?
yeah, absolutely. And after, doing that event and business was taking off and I was doing webinars, and she reached out. She's like, I've been seeing you, Miss Gayl. We need to get together. And we did.
Definitely.
So, these events that I go to, because I have to make sure that I'm in the room too. I can't tell people to be responsible to be at tables and go into rooms that you're uncomfortable with, or go meet you meet the perfect stranger who gives you resources or access to people that you may not have had access to before. I have to make sure that I go and be in these rooms
100%.
as well.
Okay. Roxanne, if you want to follow Coach Gayl Benson and then send her a DM, she said, "How can I be part of this group?"
Oh, actually, I can send her please send me a DM, and I will send you a link to the Facebook group. And also you can share in your DM your email, because we're getting ready to send out our quarterly email, because our second quarter brunch is coming up in June. And if you're not local, we still share pictures and insights, and also links to the leaders who share resources during, our Blazers quarterly meetup.
Brilliant. Hope that answered your question there, Roxanne. Okay, so now, where did the book writing come into?
Well, I started writing pressure when it was like therapy for me. And I was just writing through something that journaling was what I learned through going through the group therapy program that I was in. And it was a 14-week program. And a part of that program was the tool for myself was to journal, so that I could get my feelings out, acknowledge my feelings, and examine them to see what could I do to change my own behaviors.
I was going to say, so was it more of a release
It was a
and
release
a
for me.
yeah,
Yeah, it was definitely therapy,
yeah,
but I
therapy
was
as well.
so much. I was looking back at how much I was like, and I was joking with myself. I was like, yeah, you sat here and wrote a dang on book. And then I said, wait a minute. I am writing a book to myself. I'm writing
Yeah,
out things that I've experienced that I felt like had an impact on my life. And so I prayed about it, and I was like, what do I do? I've never done this before. I don't know how to do this. So again, I leaned into my faith, and I started really heavily dependent on spirit, talking to me, and hearing God's direction, and how I knew I was supposed to be writing this book, because I had no book title. I was looking up how to do this, reaching out to some leaders that I had access to who had written books and published books. And finally, one night I was so frustrated, because I'm like, I have 18 chapters of a book that
wow,
doesn't have a title. And I was 18 chapters in, I didn't have a title, and I was sitting in my bed feeling sorry for myself, because I was getting ready to give myself an excuse not to continue to write the book. And I was like, God, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. And I leaned my head back and I closed my eyes, and the picture of the book and the title, as soon as I closed my eyes, I saw the book.
wow,
I saw the picture, I saw the name, and I started crying, because I was like, all I had to do was
yeah,
ask and you would show
yeah,
me.
and you get it.
Absolutely.
That's right. So how is it the one book you've written so far?
Yes, that's the one that's published. I have been writing my second book since last November, so that one is not published yet. I'm not sure when it's going to be published, because I'm still writing. But Pressure was my first published book, my memoir, and Pressure means a lot to me, because she allowed me to go back and talk to my younger
Yeah,
self. Pressure took me back to give myself grace for some of the things that I you know how you say in hindsight, oh, I should have did this. We always shoulda, coulda, woulda ourselves
yeah,
to death.
definitely.
And she allowed me to just give myself grace and not expect me to make decisions for information I didn't even have back then. I was holding myself responsible for knowledge I have today that I didn't have at 8 years old, that I didn't have at 15 years old. So I had to give myself grace. Like, listen, I didn't know these things back then. I was growing through so that I can go through. And pressure showed up in my life where I wasn't always doing the right thing, because pressure would be like, no, you're not going to be no sucker. You're going to cut this off right
Yeah,
now. So it was different parts of my life where pressure showed up. And when I taught myself to disconnect from people, because at I think I was 22 when, I experienced heartache for the first time, and pressure showed up, and she was like, yeah, we not doing that again.
yeah,
This is how you're going to function from now on. When it come to men, you're going to be this way. And I did that. And I grew and taught myself how to disconnect emotionally from people, because I remember that one trauma of heartache.
yeah,
I continue to bring it to the forefront. And even if I remember one relationship that I really liked this guy, and I thought about just, okay, okay, he wanted to be exclusive. And I'm like, I want to, I'm going to try. And Pressure was like, oh no, you're not. You remember this? And she brought that pain back
Yeah.
to make me remember, like, all you doing is setting yourself up to go through this again. So I functioned like that. I kept myself emotionally detached. I would go through the motions, but I would never allow myself to emotionally invest in people because I kept that trauma
And
present.
did you tell with after the passing of your mother, the trauma, writing
Well,
the book
yeah,
and everything? Because
it did.
that's how you first started writing, didn't you? After your mother passed away.
Right, right. It was the trauma, and going through that, I had even buried so deep how I used to have as a child, I had separation anxiety from my mother.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until I went through the therapy program that had come out. And the clinical psychologist she was like, I don't understand why your anxiety is so complex. I don't understand. And after I started going through the program, and then it finally came out, the childhood and separation anxiety that I had up until I probably was in 8th grade.
Wow. Okay.
And I didn't really learn how to cope and deal with it until we moved to Florida, and my mother was thousands of miles away. And I was forced to deal with it. That's when I don't know how I did it, but it was some painful nights. I cried myself to sleep. And I remember thinking, why can't I be like everybody else? Like, it was a painstaking thing, that a panic that I thought something, if I wasn't around, something was going to happen to my mother. So, and then when she passed away, all of that came back to me.
Wow. Okay, let's move forward to some good times. So tell me about your first client you had, who you
Um,
coached.
my first client was somebody that came to one of my events, and she was going through some hurdles, and just the fact that I had shared that I'm not perfect. I've been where you
Yeah.
are. Only difference is that I just happen to have a different experience and do the work. She shared her experience with me, and just her telling me that me being me was what touched her. I wasn't putting on airs like I was perfect
Yeah.
and things of that nature. So being able to meet up with her, actually meet her after the event and talk. And when people give you feedback about how you impact their lives, you get that, like, that confirmation
Hundred
that, okay, I'm doing
percent.
the
Yeah.
right thing. I'm doing the right thing here. So she's monumental to me. She's my first paid clients. I got a lot of free 99s out there. Okay. There's a
Excellent.
lot of free 99s out there, but she was the first client, saw value in what I was offering, and she was my first paid client, and she did a 6-week program with me.
Wow. And are you still in touch with her?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, I do.
Okay, so what came next? So did the podcast come next?
Yeah, the podcast came about actually last year, from being a keynote speaker at this Black Tie Gala in September of 2024. And then
Yeah.
I was reintroduced to someone who I had, met a couple of years prior. And I was reintroduced to Renette Upson Bush, who was putting together a podcast for women 40 plus. And so when I was reintroduced to her, and I was like, oh, I know Renette. We started talking, and Renette was like, okay, this is going to fit. This is going to work. And just like that one conversation, being
Wow.
reintroduced to her, I'm a spicy season sister.
And how many episodes are you up
Oh
to
my
now?
gosh. So this week is going to be episode 23.
Really?
Episode 23. We have been nonstop since December 16th, I think, was our first episode, and we've been nonstop every week. I've been out of the country, and still the episodes went on. We still go, life happens, and we still fill in the
Carry
gap
on.
for our other sisters. So we make it happen.
100%. Okay,
Thank you.
where's my question gone? So how does cognitive behavior differ from other coaching or other behavior?
So cognitive behavior, it puts the responsibility of the client to be willing to do the work, to really want to know how to lay new pathways for themselves, how to unlearn what they learned and grasp a new outlook, reframe their mind and renew their perspective. And once that they cross that threshold that spark is like, oh, I have the power to change this. I don't have to do
Okay.
it this way because my grandmother did it that way, or I saw my mom do it that way, or my neighbor said that I wasn't this or I wasn't that. That's not true. I don't have to live my life that way. I can do it on my own terms the way I want to. So the
Mm-hmm.
responsibility is heavily on the drive and the want to change and the want to know how and to get the tools to flip I call it flip the script.
Yeah,
Flip
but
the script on
do you have to keep tabs on them? So just say if you were coaching me
Mhm.
and I went out on a bender and I went out with my friends and on the lash on the biz, would you keep tabs on me? Would you say, oh, what you doing this evening or anything like that?
So what we do is through the program, it's called the RISE program, Rewrite Your Story. In the RISE program, we get together once a week. We do a live session for an hour,
Mm-hmm.
and then I do one-on-ones with everyone. So we have our group session once a week, and then throughout the
They're
week,
one on ones.
yeah, and throughout the week I do one-on-one. So if you say, hey, I went out with my friends, I had a blast, I got tore up from the floor up, I'm just living life,
Yeah.
and and life will life, and I'll just ask you, so how is that, how's that helping you towards your goal? Are you any closer to your goal that you went and had a good time? Where are you with your achieving your goals? Did you reach this? Did you do this? Or did you do that? So it's making you realize that maybe some of those times that we feel like we deserve to lash out or act out or get revenge,
Yeah.
how is that playing a part in your growth? Because that's not new behavior, that's old behavior that we're trying to move away from. So how is doing that, and how is that going to help you grow towards the goals that you said you wanted to accomplish? Because I have to remind you of what you said you wanted to do, because these are your goals, not mine.
Okay, there's a comment here from Gav. He said, "There's a lot matter about the people, your friends, and your company and your friends, your circle, your friend circle."
Uh-huh. Let me see the company. Right, that is that is so true, because a lot of times we want to stay comfortable with the people that
Yeah,
we've always known,
yeah,
that we've been around, and we feel some type of allegiance to those bonds and relationships. But when we're growing, it's difficult for a lot of people to make that separation because it's comfortable, because you know
that's right.
them. But what you don't realize is that
They're
being
bringing you down.
they're suffocating you,
Hmm.
because it's a chore for them to receive you in your healing. They don't know the
100%.
healed you. They know the you that they like to go out to drink with and go out and do
Yeah,
things and this, that, and the other. But when you start healing and growing, it's a friction with them as well, because they don't know that side of you. And we have to make a decision. What's more important? These comfortable relations, or our healing and our growth? When do we choose ourselves versus the people who we think are embracing us are actually probably holding us down?
hold on. Just reading this comment. 100%. You become the person you is right by the company you have. You become the person you are by the company you have.
Yeah, because that energy is real, and we don't realize how connect that energy transfers from one to another. So if we're around people who are generally negative, we're gonna somehow, that negative energy is going to transfer to us. No
Come
matter
to you,
how
yeah.
small it shows up, it's going to show up. So that's,
Mhm.
the old saying says, birds of a feather flock together. You are
That's
the
right.
company that you keep. Because I say this all the time. I saw this at a presentation that I did, where it says you will never see a bird in a fishbowl. You will never see a bird in a fishbowl. A bird is meant to fly. Be that. Don't be a bird in a fishbowl. You have to function in the places and the spaces that you are meant to elevate. And sometimes we will force ourselves to be in that fishbowl because the people that we're comfortable with are in that bowl. We have got to get out and be true to us. Why not me? Why
That's,
not you?
that's a brilliant saying. What is it? Don't be the bird in the fishbowl.
Don't be a bird in the fishbowl. You
Excellent.
don't belong there.
Yeah, it's true. Okay. Um, so how do you balance real, vulnerable, and professional? Hold on. How do you balance being real, vulnerable, and professional in a public space?
Ooh. So I kind of stay away from the word balance. I more so choose to say integrate. I integrate, realities and then professionalism, because
Yeah.
it's a lot of times where I have to make sure that I'm aware of my words, because my words land differently on people because they have a different expectation of me. Because sometimes, Biggie, I want to say some stuff to people, but I
But
can't.
you can't.
So
Be professional.
so then that's when the professional, I weigh in. I have to let the professional, face weigh in and exercise and weigh out, okay, I analyze the situation and the outcome, because if I say this is possibly going to be the outcome.
Yeah.
So
True.
I integrated, because now, so I'm going to be me. I'm going to be Gayl. I'm going to be Coach Gayl Benson all day. It's just what level of Coach Gayl
That's
Benson
it.
you're going to get based
You
on the
might get the family version, the family. You might get the PG version, or you might get the street version.
right, right. Because even before I became a coach, my family members will always call me the regulator, because
Okay.
I would not bite my tongue. I would just be like, listen, yo, I'm not this or that. I'm gonna give it to you raw digger.
Yeah.
But as Coach Gayl, you gonna get Coach Gayl Benson, or you don't want Gayl. I promise you,
Yeah.
you don't want Gayl, and you don't want pressure. Because if pressure show up, it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. But I do integrate, because I continue to, as people say, be real. I am who I am, but I also know that I have a purpose, and I have a responsibility tasked with me as Coach Gayl Benson to always see the opportunity for people to elevate and level up, and recognize where, when people say some things or move or function in a certain way, I have to realize now, with my professional training and life experiences, that everything that we do comes from a place.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And what does empowerment look like for you, for women that are over 40, between 40 and 50?
Listen, we got a lot of power in this 40 plus community, because we going through a lot of things, Biggie. We dealing with life. If you got families, husbands, kids, and menopause, baby,
Yeah.
we pushing through over here.
Pushing the way, yeah.
We
And
are pushing through over
so
here.
your clients, what age group are they normally?
It, it's normally, originally when I first started coaching, they were coming about between 35 and 60. And as I've grown, with my clients and been more into the community, especially being a part of Spicy Sea Sisters,
Hmm.
one of my clients is 77 years old. And
Really?
and I almost felt like imposter syndrome. I'm like, what can I tell her? But still giving her my all, and getting feedback from her, sharing how giving her emotional energy for her to embrace, even at her
Brilliant.
age, that there is still a beginning yet for her, because she still has breath in her body. So identifying the things that helping her identify the strength that she really has to do the things that she still wants to do, and she's doing them right now. And I'm so proud of her, and she's on social media now, and I love it.
So how did you meet Justy?
Just Dee and I worked at the same healthcare organization.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And when I met Dee, she came to my office and she was helping me with something, and we found out we were from the same hometown. She's from Jersey City also. So when we
Oh,
found out
okay.
from Jersey, that was automatic. When you find somebody from Jersey, it's like, okay, good. We family.
Yeah.
We gonna figure out what Ave you was on, where you was at. We connected and we stayed in contact ever since then. And when Dee told me she wrote her book,
Yeah.
Dee told me about 2 or 3 years ago that she was going to write a book. I was encouraging her, just in conversation. I'm like, make it happen. That's your dream. And I'm just really like on the fly supporting her and coaching her. And she did it. She wrote that book. And I'm so proud of her because I
100%.
on, she's a client now. And putting her out there with her book, doing webinars and talks for her book, and helping her build out her program for her book series. So it has just come full circle. Watching her do everything she said she was going to do, it's phenomenal.
Okay, tell me a bit more about this. What's it called? No, is it prestigious?
Blazers. You want to talk
That's
about
it, yeah,
Blazers?
Blazers, yeah.
Yeah, so the Blazers Academy, Blazers came about because I was doing women's empowerment and was doing it every month, but I just felt some type of void because I was doing it with another organization. And when I was doing that, and I said, well, I'm not going to be doing that anymore. I'm trying to do it on my own. And people were like, well, Miss Gayl, we thought that was your business, and we're going to go wherever you go. And I didn't know I had that kind of support. And you just don't know, how you're impacting. Again, you don't know how you're impacting people. So when I told them I wasn't going to be doing it every month anymore, they were like, well, when do you want to do it? Well, whenever you're doing it, we're coming. So they really rallied around me with support. And I told them I'm going to put together my own program and I'll let you know. And Biggie, when I tell you, they were on my social media, the people that had my phone number were texting me. They were like, well, what do we need to do? How can we help? When is it coming out? And I finally
Brilliant.
put the program together, launched the program, had a phenomenal first event when we did the Blazers event back in March. And I was so overwhelmed.
Interviewing me about. Okay,
Oh,
that.
wow.
So she's got a book out. Suki Kaur's got a book out. It's about a loneliness, and she goes,
Right.
"Would you interview her?"
Oh, that's wonderful. Please DM me, Suki, because I do, outside of Spicy Season Sisters, I do have my own YouTube channel called Transformation Conversations. And I would love to talk to you about that book. I would love to have you on there. Please send me a DM so I know how to reach out to you.
Brilliant, fantastic. Okay, what's next for the podcast? The spicy. What's it? Spicy.
Spicy Season Sisters.
What's happening with
So
that?
Spicy Season Sisters, we have just taken off. I mean, I don't know if we were prepared, but we've gotten invitations. We're traveling now. We're on tour. We're going to we're having our own event on June 1st called Fedoras and Fire. Then June 7th, we are going to be podcasting live from the Women's of Orlando's conference weekend. Then we're going to be podcasting in Las Vegas. We're podcasting in Dallas, Texas. We're going to North Carolina. We also have a cruise coming up in October, my birthday weekend. It's called the
Wow.
Revive, Renew, and Thrive Cruise. So we have
So
a
it's only a matter of time until there's a TV program made about you. Yeah.
Listen, do not sleep on us. The Spicy Season Sisters TV show is coming. I am speaking that into existence. We all have been talking about that. So when I tell you there's a lot coming up for the four of us, the Spicy Season Sisters, we are so overwhelmed but elated at how people have received us and been requesting for us to come to their city or come to their events because people are connecting.
Brilliant. Okay. Where are we?
Thank you, G Mana. I hope that's how you say your name.
His name's Governor.
Oh,
His name's
okay.
Gov.
Thank you so
Man's his surname. The man's his surname.
much. Thank you. Thank you, Suki. Please do inbox me and I'll definitely reach out to you.
Okay, if you could give one piece of advice to a younger girl, what would you give now? So, younger girl came to you for some coaching. What advice would you give her?
I would say to believe in the power that you feel inside of you. It is real. Do not be afraid to believe in yourself and just make sure that you never stop learning.
So, do you sometimes look back and think, damn, things could have been a whole lot different, huh?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I have. And I have to, like I said earlier, I had to give myself grace because I was using information that I have today and thinking about decisions I made in the past. We don't have the keys to the future, and every decision it really impacts our journey. Some of the things that happen to, what I say, happened around me or for me, I didn't realize it at the time that it was a part of my journey. Nothing happened or that I experienced that was not supposed to happen. It was just how I didn't know how to take the lesson out of it. I've learned how to take the lesson from everything that I experienced in life. And
Wow.
even though at times I feel like I'm in the midst of a cyclone, like I'm in a tornado, and even in that tornado, Biggie, I'm still not being touched. I'm not being bruised. It may be moving around me,
Yeah,
but it's not harming me. It's not touching me. It's not taking away from my light. And I know that that too will pass. The storm will blow over. The sun will shine. And even if it's cloudy, it doesn't mean the sun is not there. The sun
100%.
is still there. Even though clouds are present, the sun is still shining.
Always. 100%. Okay, finally, what kind of legacy do you want to leave before personally and professionally?
My personal legacy, of course, is going to be overwhelming generational wealth.
Yeah,
That everything that I get to do and that I love doing, that, I'm blessed to be able to be paid, for my gifts and be able to share my light with people. My professional legacy is that I've always wanted to pay homage to the gifts that I've been given, and that I've always want to focus on people tapping into their power and leaving a legacy of light and development, and a legacy of elevating people and lifting people up. That is what I'm here to do. I've been tasked to shine light on the past for people who functioning and roaming around in the dark like I was.
yeah.
And once you see a little glimmer of light, then that's hope. And that's what
That's
my legacy, I
what
want
you
to leave
want, yeah.
a legacy of hope.
Amazing. Okay, as Justy nominated you, have you got a nomination for me?
I do have a nomination for you, and I hope, I pray that she receives it well, and I know she will. One of my fellow coaches, Coach Amber Phoenix, and
Okay,
Coach Amber Phoenix is a phenomenal coach. She's had a great journey. She started out as an ADHD coach, and as
great.
she on her still on her journey of sobriety, she's turned her ADHD coaching into like spiritual guidance, helping people along the way to kind of move away from some of the things that are weighing people down and how to make decisions even
Brilliant.
on her journey of sobriety. So Coach Amber Phoenix is a phenomenal person.
Excellent. I'll reach out to her. So if you contact her, then tell her to contact me or
I
I'll give you a
will.
shout.
I
Okay.
absolutely will.
Coach Gayl, thank you very much. Your journey is absolutely
Thank
amazing. And thank you
you.
so, so much.
Thank
And I wish you all the best. You
Thank
take
you for
care. I'm
sharing
going
your
to look out for the TV series, the Netflix series.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah,
Thank you to
100%.
everyone
You
that is
take care.
watching. I appreciate you lending your community to me and giving me a voice here on your platform, Biggie. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, girl. You're most welcome. All the best. Take care.
Take
Bye.